You see, when we switch from normal conventional classrooms to online classroom, virtual space, what the literature states is that there is also a swap in rules. As a facilitator, you do more than students. In the conventional classroom, you just need your notes, whatever, go and talk. So students are expected to do more. But at this point, you do a lot. Those times I used to build my course size on my own. After marshalling all my materials, my what do you call it, presentations and everything, it took me between 3 to 4 hours to build one course site. Yeah, that's minus organizing all your materials. But once you do it the first time, you import and you modify. So when we had some trouble, was it late last year when our IT information technology department, our directorate, it used to be UGCS, University of Ghana Computer Systems, they they modified the Sakai space and archived the old ones. What? No, I justice. Why? So now you can't import. And that time, those who were teaching business school, those who were teaching special programs and all that, they were in the middle of their semester. So now ours, all old sites are archived, and it takes so long for you to even to open to get some information from there. It's so slow. Around 2018, I returned from a conference from the US, and they had wiped all my assessments. All my assessments. It was 2 weeks to exams. You go back to students to tell them to do another formative assessment. Fortunately, I was teaching with a lecturer, so I called the course road for main campus and city campus and told them we are going to scale the assessment from the other lecturer up because it would have been very unfair to go and conduct another assessment during exams. IT for when you have fights with your wives, you visit your mentors on us. Oh, okay. So routines should be established, and your course, your study guide should be able to do this from the onset. How I mean, this kind of advice you put in, you can be. I don't have it in my study guide, but at least in the module, the spaces where you advise students, all those things are there. Then regular reviews. Mhm. Yeah, so yesterday there was a brother here, I'm sure he's absent today, who was talking about the different streams of students. Yes. So you should be able to identify these are workers, these are full-time students, these are in between, so that as you are studying your material, yeah, good. And in a way, this also goes in the way of advice in orienting them. There can be spaces in your study guide or your module itself where you have some information about. And the course you are talking about too, the study skills should also take a code in that sense. Okay. So how do we support our distance learners? No, I think this one, regular review, recommend speed repetition techniques and schedule reviews as such. Okay. So in your having taken time to study your modules, that's why I spoke about reflective questions, tasks. You don't grade tasks. In the context of education, you don't grade tasks, but it should be something that should refer students to the test itself. video to watch, to view, or something of the sort. Okay. So there should be time management. I'm happy you have come up with that course. It's something I've failed to do, but maybe I'll try to do it and hand over to the one who take over. Distraction control for maintaining focus. So one strategy which is very simple, I told you right from the beginning of the class, I announced to them, if I call you twice and you don't respond, I take you off. And I do that. Last 2 weeks, I was teaching and there were only about 16 students, so managing them was not difficult. And when I joined, 3 guys have joined. I kept calling one, he was not mentioned, he was not speaking. Then I said, I'm taking you off. Later he rejoined and told me it's because of his location, internet. I said, no, you can move to another location. Now he joined and he was able to join. In fact, we had 2 sessions. When I realized that all the students were there, I said, then let me do. Didn't have another session, so we went for a break to have the second session. So I won't bother myself on my last weekend during my holidays. Now there was this lady, she was able to speak and she was telling me she's at a funeral or something, so she can't speak. Meanwhile, when she was not answering a question, she was able to explain to me that she is at a funeral. I said, please, I'm at a funeral, I can't talk. Yeah, she said, I said, no, just tell me one thing you have heard. I kept calling her and I told the class I'm taking her off. That was it. Yeah. So let's distraction control. And there are times people are at functions that are not even significant at that moment. And they have to be there at the expense of their learning. Then communication. Clear communication. Establish accessible feedback channels. And that's why I'm advising that let us activate our chat rooms. For all my graduate programs, I'm on WhatsApp with my students. But for undergrad, it's difficult. Sometimes the thing they share the distractions, so I try to minimize that. Yes. So if I'm not on WhatsApp with them, at least the chat room there. And occasionally you go there, you see some people are putting real concerns there. But then they can call me, that one. They are not bad. Yeah, they have my number. It's on my study guide. Oh, no, the office number is on study guide. Okay. Another important thing we should consider, we mentioned it in passing in one of the earlier slides, accessibility and adoption for diverse learner needs. We know if any of us, the student has a disability. How do you know? Okay, so then I do a lot of research on disability. So globally, apart from disabilities that are visible, we know a lot of people that is grounded in research. What I'm saying, so we do not know all of them. But even those that we know, how are we different for them in our online platforms? At UG, we have as part of the Information Technology Directorate, we have the special, which is headed by Alex. He's a blind person, and we have facilities there. And then we also have the office. Okay, it's also now a directorate of students with special needs. I'm sure you have this equivalent here. Somehow. Okay. So for materials, the students take them there and they convert for them. So those who are hard of hearing, those who are visually impaired, they convert for them. So as we develop, let's not, I told you 2 of my studies they mentioned that we are the silent minority, and it always hits me when that word comes to mind. And statistics also tell us that uh, many people with disabilities are those from low socioeconomic divides. And so if you don't take care of them, we are really doing injustice. Okay, so accessibility and adoption, clear language, I've spoken about that. Multiple formats. As a lecturer, you have not been trained to do that. That's why there has to be a material unit that also with the responsible and convert. We have not been trained, and even you have been trained, you don't have the time to develop materials for all that kind of manner of diversities. Okay. Compatibility with technology. I don't think we have a problem now. I don't think any of us is scanning materials. Yes. Okay. Then adaptable. It goes with this. Then what else? So in conclusion, structure is important. Clarity is important. The Oko Oxford, don't bring your Oxford English to the modules. Bring it. I have a friend inside South Africa, Stellenbosch. He's a philosopher. And we're putting a proposal together. He brought it to me and I said, Master, when you do the language before you bring it? I read it, I get confused. The guy is like somewhere up there. I have two people, my mentor in Egypt, my mentor investing in Cairo. Wow! Techno rise and you have to read like 4 times before. They are philosophers. I mean, and sometimes they forget they are not dealing with philosophers. But some of us do. You know, when we're in secondary school, those who came to do national service, they wear big some words and they want you to know they are from university. And we'll be clapping for them without even understanding. But the language, let's not visit that on our students. Let's see their level and adapt to them. Regular revised guides based on learner feedback and emerging educational research continuously improve effectiveness. So when I went to distance education, modules, the philosophy behind that indicates that it has to be every 5 years. Now, some lecturers, every department has contemporary issues. So they were coming to me. How do you expect me to teach what I taught last year? Contemporary issues, politics. You expect me, now election is over. So they were on me. But the rules also say 5 years. And even apart from that, I realized that with the emergence of technology, knowledge is no more static. By the time we put it out, it has already expired. And another battle was when somebody will come to you and tell you that module is rubbish, I have to write a new one. Because that professor who taught him is no more there, and he has taken charge, so he's now rubbishing everything. It's not actually rubbish, but he also wants to write and get paid. So I did a proposal for the university that, okay, instead of reviewing modules every 5 years, let's chunk that money we pay every 5 years. 5. And every year, lecturer will review, submit, and we pay. So we used to pay 8,000 for the material study guide and slides. I made an appeal, it was enhanced to 10,000. So instead of waiting for 5 years to get 10,000, every semester you are teaching that course, you are paid 2,000. So one department whose HOD was fighting me every time, when I brought in that initiative, called me and said, Master, my growth wants a man for a list of pay to me. So that year, I didn't even request for a list. He brought the list of lecturers to teach that semester. Because 2,000 is not much, but it can fill your time. I mean, you don't do much, you just revise small modifications. And there are some courses, like Like management, every year I'm going to teach, I go to check if there are new theories. It's the same. Are we still not using Fayon's 1916 principles of management? So you basically don't change anything. When you get your 2000, that is Kobo. So that's what I did. And so no lecturer is coming to insult another lecturer to me. I know there are people who are being withdrawn from D, we are not teaching, but they still want to be paid for materials. No, I don't get it. And for the past 3 years, that has really worked. That has really worked, Frank. We chunk the money. I don't know how much you are paying here. But then, if you want to go by that, you cannot be biased review. And that's it. And that's why some of my students were out there and crying. They are using modules that we have changed lecturers. The lecturers don't even know the modules. They are teaching with certain questions with their new content, and we are still using old modules to teach. So even now, courses that are still doing face-to-face, we have courses that still have face-to-face with tutors. Once we upload the materials on our Sakai page, the tutors have access, and so they are using that to teach. And also, some lecturers are unable, or some too would tactically not deliver their materials before the semester ends. Like one lecturer who is always fighting me that once I give you the materials, regular students get access it and they are not attending lectures, so I will not give you. So some lecturers will only give it at the end. Now we are making payment for first semester course, some have now submitted. But the good news is, because it's being reviewed on a semester basis, when we are teaching the students, they are using the materials week by week, unlike previously when there was not even a material at all to use. So these are little things we've been able to do, the adaptation, the review. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to share one of my materials with us. We are going to go through and see how it will help you to adapt and enhance your own. So let's take a 2 minutes stretch around and then I will only 2 minutes. one of my study guides, which is quite fresh. That was for last semester. I took this up because undergrad science, but I have a passion for HRD, for leadership and management. My trainings, a classroom, not because of the money, but the reference and the impact. Because sometimes you stand in front of top managers, think they know it all, but you see the difference that they are practicing the theories, but they don't know what they are practicing. It always amazes, but you are there. Okay. So this is a typical study guide, and we insist. So I told you earlier that sometimes some lecturers, even when I returned, my administrator was telling me one lecturer has brought his, and that lecturer, I don't know, I think he's a litigant. But last year, over the years, he has not complied with our template. But one thing our way is brings it a bit late, and then it has substance. It's not like the typical main campus syllabus, which people will give to me and I'll not process for payment at all. It has substance, it has content, but it's not compliant. Meanwhile, when we write to every lecturer at the beginning of the semester, we give a link. In the letter, there are links where you can access the templates for all these things. The template for the PowerPoint, the template for the study guide, everything. Just click a link and you access it. And I don't know, people are too overwhelmed to be reading those. Some will even call to tell we didn't receive our letters until we forward it again. So what do I have here? This is just the cover which everybody sees. Now the course information, study guide for undergraduate students. Here is there. My details. So this is, come again. Yeah, this is standard. You see, I don't use my titles. Then, and once you use the templates, you don't need to rewrite these. They are there. You just need to refresh the table of content once you are done. So the course website information, support content, these things are standardized. The learning outcomes, knowledge, skills, competence, you just need to modify it, fine-tune it to suit your discipline. Assessment and grading, Garrison policy, recommended texts. So that is more or less a generic thing for everybody. Before we come to the schedule itself. So we have the session, schedule sessions, session 1, learning objectives or goals, learning outcomes, activities, and assignments for each. So this one runs through all the sessions. Session 2, the only deviation is the title. History, scope, and meaning of HRD, roles, relevance, and importance of HRD. But the others, they run. Developing HRD programs, implementing career planning, personal branding. This is not a typical topic in HRD, but I got another funding from Commonwealth of Learning, and they came to train. They brought an expert to train us on an employability framework for University of Ghana. Very comprehensive. So what we have done is that we are slotting aspects of that to our courses every semester. So this was the first semester. We did personal branding. This semester, what are we doing? Are we doing CV development or something I've forgotten? So we are slotting. By the time they get to level 200, we have done aspects of the entire employability framework. Then we have organizational development and philosophy of HRD. So in essence, there are 8 sessions. You know, typically we have 12 sessions. So in the traditional modules, you have 12, what do you call it? 12 units. And some lecturers will call me, some professors, and we are shortchanging these students. Why do you have only 4? When I went there, we were having 4 sessions per course and 5 for mathematically inclined courses. But I did a proposal 8. So now we are doing 8 sessions. The essence was to have 4 for lecturers to engage the students online and 4 for team tests. But as I told you, some departments said we want to do all online, we don't need the team tests. And we have seen quality improvement. So we have 8 sessions. So now the lecture slides, the lecture covers 8. See 9 here, but the first one is a general introduction. I mean, not this one, this one. Okay, yeah. Okay. So some information about me, my email. For support, there's a number and an email for students to call. Now, I don't know if any provider in Ghana has it, but when I visited River Open University, I told you it's just a block. I think it's 3 stories. They have a room, I think up to about this size or a little closer, with people offering support. How are they offering it? Everyone there, about 50 people, they have headsets with microphones, and their duty is to respond to student and prospective student queries all the time. That's what they do. Call center. I was with one of the professors from Nigeria National Open University, Professor Uchimi. Were driving around when you see the call from one of their centers. The first question was, "Have you called our center?" I said, "No, call the center." Because people are trained to provide answers. As an HOD, especially getting to exams, sometimes I have to read about 100 students who have not been able to register, outstanding results, tutorial issues. They are all coming to me. There was one day I just closed my laptop around 4:30 a.m. So these are important things that should be a call center that is working, not a typical call center with a typical Ghanaian attitude who come and switch off the phone and do something else. Frank, we're talking about a call center. I saw one at Miva and I was amazed. It's like this room with about 50 people, headsets and all that, promptly responding to. Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah. Even a telephone for my office got spoiled. I think we had to use petty cash. Now, our general office, their phone has been spoiled long ago. I went through my things and I saw there's a phone. These normal phones, what do you call them? Yes, I saw an Alcatel, so I brought it to the office. I'll give it to them today. It's a new one. The general office doesn't have. I'll that to them as. So now the course overview, which you have, perhaps this is a bit more of extension. So this is of the course that they should expect. Then the sessions, the 8 components or the sessions I told you about. Then to activate that idea of self-directed learning, we always have a session called problem-based approach, which is standardized in all our modules, but you may have to modify it. So problem-based approach is explained to students to go over and appreciate. Then we have our course formats, debrief formats. Use sessions like reading materials, different forms of assessment, all following. Announcement will be posted the course website and email accordingly. So students will not. Did I tell you yesterday that I had to cut a PhD student's call when he missed assignments. I reopened the system and he called me. He was arguing that the course rep did not tell him. I remember I was driving somewhere. I told him, cut the line. Just cut the line. And this course, we have 4 lecturers, but the first semester, the others had to learn HRD. So I developed it. This semester, the continuation we have shared. I just developed the initials and they added their 2 sessions each. Now, I engaged the students online. It was beautiful sessions. They were contributing all that. I also joined another lecturer for his 2 sessions. I couldn't join the last 4. Now they are marking and they are not performing well in the exams. So when I met them 2 weeks ago, online, I asked them what happened. And one was saying, sorry, somebody did not share the slides. They are investing. You expect us to ring a bell? Because when I post anything on Sakai, I activate it to deliver an email. And you have to visit your Sakai, your course site. You have to be. But once it is from Sakai email, they either delete or they don't even check. But we need to highlight. So once it is in the study guide, then they should know where to watch out for information. Where you start doing some work, again, is the learning outcomes, which has to align with your objectives. But even that, see, we have subdivided that into 3: knowledge, skills, and competence. Why are we doing this? Yesterday we talked about 3 broad areas of learning, which are affective, psychomotor, cognitive. Good. So cognitive is here, psychomotor is here, skills and competence is here. That aligns with the affective. The learning outcome for the course are outlined along 3 strands: knowledge, skills, and outcomes. For knowledge, you should have foundational knowledge on fundamental concepts and principles that underpin HRD, rules, relevance, in-depth insights to career planning. Then it comes to skills. What should they be able to do? Develop critical activities relevant to HRD, analyze the rules of HRD, developing schedules, developing personal branding, articulating the philosophy of HRD. Along these lines, competence. With the outcomes are further chunked into the 3 domains of learning: knowledge, skills, competence. Then from there, assessment and... Oh, you wanted to ask a question? Okay. So, I don't play with my reflective assignments. It will be to observe and reflect or share their observations on the course, whatever. Then, depending on the numbers, when numbers are very heavy, I activate the MCQs, which is automatically graded. Yeah. Or short essays or 10 paper presentation. So with this course, I developed about 100 MCQs. So there's technology to do that. I just have to put my material in, and you have to read to make sure that they align. Sometimes you can develop. AI hallucinates a lot. Yeah, AI has, especially ChatGPT, it hallucinates a lot. So somebody was chatting, trying to find out. They said, "But my wife said so. I'm sorry, your wife is right." Yeah. And even this morning, I was engaging Gemini. It gave me a certain narrative, and I said, "But no, you are right. You're on point." Yeah. So depending on the numbers, if the numbers are heavy, I develop 100 MCQs. They are doing only 20 out of it, and I develop 100 because it randomizes. And I do that for even my regular students. I give 2 chances because they may be technological failure or whatever. So if it fails and you do it again, there's a chance. But it records only the last option. So we have a challenge in the university at UD where people develop only 50 MCQs and they enable the students to answer 50 and they are telling us students are cheating. So if you give only 50 and they are to answer, by the time they finish, they are taking screenshots and giving it. Yeah. So some years ago, some ladies in my class, about 4 of them, I gave MCQs and you do it at your own. I open it the whole day. I put in about, I think it was about 150 questions and they're answering 30. So we were having an event in our conference room, adult education, and I was moving in and out of my office. They were sitting in front of our academic office, 3 of them with their friends, their books, laptops, everything. So, yeah, with a cartel. So I kept moving. Something was taking me in and out of the office. I got there, I think the 10th time, and they were frustrated. One of them said, Doc, the questions are not the same. I looked at it and said, I give you questions to sit at anywhere, do it anytime within 24 hours, and you think I'll give you 30 questions to answer. They were so frustrated because different questions were drawing for them at every time. But so it's difficult when you have to sit to develop your own. And those times there was not any technology. I was developing them on my own. So for every course, there were 500 questions. Yeah, every course, 500 at the bank. Now technology does that for us, but please make sure you read through time to make sure. Okay. So individual assignments, projects, what we did for them, like personal branding. There's no need to teach personal branding. I only developed an 8-page slide as a guide. And then they developed their own personal branding and presented it online. And we scored them. Those who didn't present, they didn't get any mark. I only gave a definition of personal branding, how to go about it, the things to look out for. And we gave them time to develop their personal branding. And that was came more of a presentation. Then there was also a group for these students. And then exams was 50. My exams used to be 40, but the cheating became too much. So now exam for undergrad is 50 or 60 in some cases. So now we explain to them what each of these assignments entail. And once you do this once, you can get mine and modify it. You don't do it again. You don't. Plagiarism policy. I think our plagiarism policy has, no, this is not updated. The policy, there's one that has based on AI. I think the 2022 policy also. Then the recommended test, please let's keep in mind, recommended test is a minimum of 5, a maximum of 7. That's the standard. Anything below or above is not acceptable. When you are doing accreditation, yes. And let's also try to stay current. There are sometimes people bring materials and you still see the 1980s. I remember when I joined the university, my mentor, I was writing a paper. Well, I did 2 papers with my mentor, and he also, the paper was doing for me to further develop and submit. And when I checked references, the thing we all get there one day, because he was already almost moving out. References. So I didn't want to offend him. So I'll find a more recent and add to his own. That's not to say you are forbidden from the classicals. There are some classicals that you can see, but let's minimize them. And this is a study guide. In your teaching, you can use a lot of that, but in this, you have to remain very current and relevant. Then the schedule. I told you, the one is an overview, not about the content. That's why we have 9 here. The content itself starts from session 2. So we have 8 sessions. So introduction to HRD. Look here. See, this is standard for everybody. Don't alter it. No, for my regular students, graduates, I do like, that's regular. I do like, it's beyond this. I can show you one. Because everything is there. You don't need to come to me. But the thing is, once you do it once you do it, you familiarize, that's it. So you see, the first section is generic. You don't do anything about that. If you, what we have there. Okay. Activities and all that. Now, action starts from the session 2. It's actually your session 1. This session introduces students to the basic concepts of HRD. Students will get an in-depth comprehension of the history and scope of HRD. Synopsis. Now, objectives. Define HRD. Relate the major historical events leading up to the establishment of HRD as a profession. Distinguish between HRD and HRM. Identify the major phases of training and process. This is level 100. Now, what are the outcomes? The outcomes should align with the objectives. They should be able to define, they should identify the key phases. Much well, just align. Okay, yeah. Now see the activities this week. And yes, one thing we do with distance education module writing is that you use a lot of personal. So you speak to the people. You should see the person is in front. Remember, the module is the teacher. So log onto the Sakai Learner site. This is my course site. Just copy once you open Sakai. Read chapter 1 of recommended. Review lecture slide. Session 1. Review additional video presentation by the lecturer. That means you have put a video there. And post your answers to the reflection questions in the chat room. Why do you think I've highlighted this? In green. Which reflection questions am I talking about here? Somewhere, thank you. Because most of the time, we unconsciously create a disconnect between the syllabus and the actual content. We don't find any means of ensuring that the syllabus will compel students to read or do certain things. So these reflection questions, if I go to the slide 1, they are there. So before you can post your answers, the reflection questions was the last slide on session 1 slides. Yes. So I'm connecting them to the slides or the study material. Good. Then I come to session 2, which is 3 here. Well, we don't need to discuss the objectives and the outcomes. But you see here, log on to Sakai. That one is automatic. Read recommended references. Review lecture slide 2. Now, this is not my video. There's a short video on the topic. So you have to watch the video. And again, share your views or understanding of Gary Gaz's video in the chat room. So I'm making sure, and yesterday I kept mentioning that chat room. at every point in time. Yeah. So self-directed learning. This is the next session. Developing HRD programs to objectives, outcomes. If you look, these two are almost automatic. 3. Review the video titled Designing Effective HRD Programs. Okay, watch. Visit the chat room and discuss the following questions for session 3. So now, it's not only about the chat room. There's a forum that they have to engage. I don't know what you call the forum in module. Is it also forum? Forum, yeah. Okay, now, it used to be forum, but Sakai is now discussion. Yeah. We come to 5 objectives, activities. Okay. Evaluate the content of the video on HRD. So and now complete the assignment task for session 4. Where there are assignments, you have to prompt them. At the end of this session, they should, if they have a submission, they have to do that. Okay, we have career planning and development. Read recommended tests. Review video. Because they are level 100s, we try to give them a lot of videos. But here, you see, we did not deliberately, we did not bring the video on the topic here. When we started, we were warming them. Now, they have to go to the lecture slide and find the video. And by doing that, it's not stated whether it's lecture 5 or 6. I mean, slide 5 or 6. So at least, you improve. 8 is personal brand. I told you this one I did not develop. We did not teach. So to define, analyze their own emerging personal brand and its online presence, develop basic plan for enhancing their personal brand, design a portfolio, learning outcomes. So if you come to the activities, they log, they review, recommend texts, yeah, and relevant videos, construct a portfolio showcasing their skills, experience, and values in alignment with their personal brand. Present your portfolios in class on agreed date and time. And the difference between traditional classroom and where we are now is that collaborate with students to do some of the things. So it's impossible to get students ahead of time to decide on the topics to teach, right? But I told you in my portfolio, the Reflect portfolio, the HRD class I taught last semester, when at their recommendation, somebody recommended that they expect to see, they were expecting to see issues of AI in human resource development. I was teaching theoretical foundations. So now I'm thinking of how I can do that for the I will teach again, God willing, next year. So that's how you construct students. Organizational development. Okay, so there's complete all the reflection questions. That's item 4. You discuss the questions and your responses with your peers. So though it's online, but you can group them, or they can have forum to have groups for themselves. And the last one is the philosophy of HRD. What are the activities? Review lecture slides, form groups to discuss the place of HRD philosophy in organizations. So they are using technology to diffuse that notion of distance amongst distance learners. Craft an HRD philosophy tailored to a specific organization. You identify an organization or hypothesize and create an HRD philosophy and share your experience in the chat room. This course we really activated the chat room. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I have done, keep working on it until date. Yes, sir. Yes.
I saw 10, 20, 20, 50.
Yeah.
Is it standard for
No.
all level hundreds or this peculiarly
It's only for this course.
Okay.
And because I told you they did not perform well because they were banking classes and all that. So this semester, it's a continuation HRD 102. We have come to a certain agreement about how to assess the lecturers, because fortunately we have 4 lecturers, so everybody is teaching 2. I'm not involved in the assessment, but one has indicated that the strategy they use for another course. What's the strategy? I've forgotten, but at the end of every session, there's some assignment which will be graded 5 marks, 5 marks, 5 marks. Yeah. And because they are not many, if they are many, when I met them, they were 16. I don't know how many we had.
Okay, that leads me to my second question.
Yes.
The chat room, what are your settings for the chat room? And I wanted to know how many comments you expected and for how long? Because I think for session 1, session 2, session 3, up to 4, I saw that there are chat room comments that you were asking them to put feedbacks on. So what is the size of your class and how many comments will you see in the chat room do you expect to see?
I told you we have 16. So chat room we don't limit. Where I limit is the discussion forum. Discussion forum is graded. It's graded. So it's between, for the graduate programs, I don't use discussion for undergrad because they are quite too many. For graduate, it's between 350 to 400. I taught him, right? Between 350 to 400 West. And you have to also make sure you comment on a number of, and that one is graded. For chat room, we go through, we also add further probing questions and all that. So those who are diligent to keep adding more. That is it. But the essence is to make sure that at least people also, and if you don't give feedback, it becomes a problem. While we see that, we check where feedback is.
Yes, so as part of your engagement with students, you realize that some of them are professionals who are already working and all that. What do you have to say with regards to infusing some of their thoughts into both pedagogy and then in your work as
Well, I think I just indicated that based on the students' reflective, I give them room to make recommendations. So it adds on to what I have to do. Only that sometimes it's difficult. But when you meet students, okay, so for graduate students, it's easy. The first meeting, we go through the course, the study guide, and I ask them if there's any topic they expect, if anything to be changed. So that one is allowed. It's a bit difficult when you are dealing with undergraduate because they don't. For some of them, they came to school because they said they should come to school. So it depends on the level at which you are working. Yeah.
asking this because sometimes some lecturers think that they know it all and therefore what some students say does not really matter, and that assertion may have to be revisited because knowledge abounds these days.
Yeah. And yes, thank you for that. 2 instances. Once I read an article and it became part of a course I was teaching at level 3. When I went the subsequent year, I read another article and the authors had diffused the knowledge. And I knew some of my students might have the grandfather. I told them that if you have that, please discard that information. And when I was a doctoral student, there is this professor who took us to a workshop, Professor Gubani. He said, a lady from Israel came to do a master's with, and the lady wanted to use a theory, but he did not understand the theory. Then he was very fresh. He did not allow the lady, called the lady to another theory. Now, when he became grounded, he realized his mistake. So he invited the lady to do a PhD with him and use that theory. If you are not open, a student has done, an MA student has done it. You know, for me, graduate students, even in person, I flip my class. I teach the topics they prepare, give them reading materials. They prepare, they come and present. One guy did a presentation, and I told the class, I'm adopting this presentation. I'm discarding what I have. It was better than what I had prepared. And I told the class, what's the point in making holy shit yourself? Oh, okay. The last
Yes, discussion, group discussions, and those things.
here.
Yes.
Okay.
About form group to discuss.
Come again.
Form
Which one?
groups to discuss.
Yes.
Point 3.
Yes.
I'm not clear about it, especially you connect it with a forum discussion. How do they form the group?
Okay. So, you know, students have their social media handles. So we have the flexibility, whether they want to form or on Sakai. I did not teach this topic. So, but there are various ways. On Sakai, we can have automatic groups where we automate and the system will group them, giving out a number, and they have to work together. Or while in class, they agree, or they use their social media. But I know eventually did the presentation. I did the first 2 topics for this one.
Okay.
But there are various ways of doing that.
Thank you.
Well, democracy, we discuss. There are some courses at the beginning of the semester, form groups. But this was only for an assignment. And there are sometimes you go, this first semester. Subsequently, you go to class, and they will tell you we have groups, especially when they are comfortable working in their groups. So it's virtual. Yeah. Come again.
And you also online with them while the form group and discussion is ongoing.
Will be online or your life.
Yes.
You give them other avenues to connect to you, not to be with them during their online discussion time. Or if they decide to work at midnight, you have to stay at midnight. I'm an alternate person. I enjoy working from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I sit, I don't stand. So you may not be able to work.
Okay. How do you score them on real time? In this particular case, how do you score them?
What do you mean scoring them on real time?
I mean, you form group.
Yes.
They discuss.
Yes.
You are not part of them.
There's a time to submit assignments. So what do you mean by real time here? The real time scoring comes in when it's automated. That's when real time scoring comes in. And even with that, some of my colleagues, they schedule a time when the results should be released to students. I automate it. Once you submit, you see your results. If it's an essay, I automate 1018. Once you submit, it tells you your index. If it's not good, delete and tender in another one. So real-time scoring, I don't think plays a part here. Maybe you are talking about feedback, and feedback does not necessarily need to be time, but it has to be prompt. Okay. Yes.
How much space is allowed for scoring attendance in a distance learning context?
I have not seen global policy on that. And it is hinged on the lecturer and perhaps the institution. Because, when I used to teach undergrad, even main campus, there was a time I filled it up to 10. Some said you can go away with your 10%. They will not come. They will not come. So students may not come to your class, also depending on how the environment you create. Last semester, I taught HRB. I've been mentioning that I think I enjoyed the class. It's a new program we have rolled out. That's mainstream, not the. The last time I had lectures with them, they asked me, are you going to teach us again next semester? I told them, well, I used to teach another course with another lecturer, but I've stopped. I am overwhelmed. And up to now, the students come to me. Yesterday from my meeting, I met them. Oh, Prof, this time. I just encourage them. So it depends on the atmosphere. Students will be learning. This course, when we met them, we asked them, is it possible to move it from the weekend? Though it's a class. They all agreed, let's move it. And it became flexible for. So, Frank, I think that one institutional or individual. I don't think it will be. In fact, every institution has a policy. I've forgotten. If you don't attend classes for more than 30% of the time, that is between 3 to 4 times out of the 12 for regular and 8. We are doing 8, so that should be about 2, right? You are not supposed to write exams. But looking at our numbers, we need to check. We are unable to put a system to really enforce that. So it's 30% for you. I don't know about here. And apart from the policy, as I said, some lecturers have 5%. I think we saw some here. Some have 10%. I, for once, moved it to 10%, and those who didn't come, did not come. But they are not in school for 8, they are in school to pass. So they do the exams and get the. Yes.
The online attendance, I think it is not feasible because 2 or more people can use one machine. 2 or more people can just log on and use one machine.
So they announce themselves.
Yes.
It happens in meetings. Don't we see that in meetings? Yes. I don't like to mix unknown numbers. Whereas people don't pick unknown numbers, I don't like to. I think I've gotten the consultants with something out of it. But well, that has been my practice. I don't. Yes. Okay.
I was saying that I think.
Yes, let them announce themselves because sometimes we have problems in meetings and we inform the chair that because we haven't or because we have. It happens. But you see, it has become a group. People don't attend. So when people ask me, your students are not attending, I ask them, what about your regular students? Some years ago, I went to Bangalore to print my questions. When I got there, every lecture, about 5 of us, was totally astonished. Because you have about 40 students, so you are coming to print 50 questions. Only for them to check from the records and you have 80 students. So seriously, people, and when I was teach regular, if you are 15 minutes late undergrad to my class, you cannot enter. Unless you give me a very good reason. Because there are some in hostels, their parents are struggling to pay, and they tell you I did not get the bus, or I overslept, or whatever. I was not taking that excuse. No, we need to instill discipline. So here, the problem is with our bandwidth. In Europe and elsewhere, one is an online class. Your video has to be on throughout. It has to be on. Here, we may not be able to enforce that because of data depletion and strength. Yes. But let's make our online classes Interesting. Let's engage our students. Let's allow them to. Yes.
Module is the teacher. So if the student has the module or lives with the teacher, shall we punish that student for not being present in maybe either an in-person or online synchronous session?
I would say it still comes back to the policy you want to come up with. Yeah. It still comes to that policy. And it's self-directed there. The person is submitting assignments which probably somebody has done for them. So let there be a policy and let it enforce to them. Yeah. But it's sad. It's sad you go to exam room, you have so many students and they're doing well. And it's as if you are not teaching. Yeah. Okay. I mean, today you have no school. You said everything yesterday.
If during orientation or lectures will on reminding students to know why they in school, it will help. Because I always tell my students that you should know why you are here. If you know why you are here, behave differently or positively to achieve results. But if you don't know why you are here, it's a waste of time, energy, and resources. Because when we used to be in school, we know why we are in school. So you act and you behave differently.
Yeah.
So they should know why they are here. Not every student will, adhere to the thing, but I believe that majority will stick and act positively to achieve results.
Thank you so much. So the orientation. And from one thing, many of them don't even attend orientation. One thing I've insisted over the past 2 years for my student support unit to organize 2 forums a semester. 2 forums. When we started 2 years ago, it's online. Got just about 300 students. I wasn't happy at all. It followed just this past semester. So we are using Teams. Go to the ceiling, 1,006 students joining from across the country. And the student president told me that others couldn't accept it. We are now thinking of how we can avenues for others. It's gaining the traction. And by that, issues that missed during orientation, issues that come to our attention, we are addressing. I speak, other officers speak, and we give them about 1 hour to also open a forum for them to also talk. So gradually, it's curing some of them. Because occasionally I go to the office on Saturday. Well, I go around when it's exams, and students will miss exams and come to the department right. Why? Because when we share the provisional timetable, their friends shared it with them, and they never look at the final exams timetable. So they come to the center, they have already written the exams, and they come to the department right on a Saturday morning. That's why we have put in this strategy of 2 forums a semester. That one, I don't joke with it. Let's see how we can do that too. Okay. I think take an early shower. But I didn't get any assurance whether we are going to extend our course syllabus to align with what I shared, or This one is for sale. So this one is a sample itself and it's for sale. Intellectual property. From this one you can't pay. This one, dollars per million, £20. And then, for example, a big man and big woman. So you are in trouble. Okay. So, if you are happy with this, the practical session we are actually supposed to start developing. So, because we are closing early, from tomorrow when we come, everybody here, I want to see that at least we have started something else. Tomorrow's session will suspend and use that to develop this. So that's what. That's why we are going. We are going 45 minutes early. So please, I'm going to share this with Frank. Frank, before you distribute, you have to take out our logo, but you can maintain my name and I don't have a problem. I can replace it. Okay. God bless us all. Tomorrow should be interesting. Tomorrow, God willing, we are looking at innovative online pedagogy. And we have set the tone already. Now know the flow. We now know the study guide. Maybe in the future, if you have strength and time is our enemy. We should now be looking at other areas the way you have said. God bless you so much.
Everybody accepts you. And the fact that we're even clamoring for your study guide should tell you that we appreciate what you have done. So, I mean, in all of the presentations, there was one question that came to mind. But then I will just throw it out there for us all to reflect on. So, and this might maybe just relate to a few people here. So for the courses that we teach for the regular program, and we teach for the distance learners, is there any distinction between our approach? So I'm just throwing out there for us all to reflect on, so that we see how we can work on it. This is a full professor in the area. He's a full professor in the area, so he knows what he's talking about. So like I said, in terms of praxis, in terms of research, he has done it. How did I even meet with him? I will share that later. So, Rob, we thank you so much for today's session. It's been enjoyable. Justice, you have more work to do. You have a lot of work to do. So, yes. So, so today, once I receive this and we do the reduction, I'll send it to you today. So we will finish tomorrow. Prof has already announced we have our innovative online pedagogies, and hopefully share the certificates to participants. And so let's finish in a grand style tomorrow. Yeah, let's finish it. And thanks so much for your participation. Even though there was another program, we are glad that you were able to. Okay, the senior members lounge. All right, so we'll be having the lunch at the senior members lounge. I think that's where they had it yesterday. So, all right. So, okay. All right. So thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you tomorrow.